Let's talk about that absolutely clutch Donovan Solano walk in the ninth inning. What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back and welcome into the Seattle Mariners post-game recap. Mariners have won a huge series going into San Diego. They won last night. They take tonight's game 4-1. I guess they're on their way closer to a Vetter Cup victory. I don't care about that. What I do care about is the Mariners have gone in to a ballpark in San Diego where the Padres were 16-5 at home this year against a team that is one of the best in National League, and they have taken this series. That is what I care about. Before I dive any further into this game in the recap, do me a favor, hit that like button. It helps out. The video gets out to more people. Hit subscribe if you're new or lurking. Welcome to all the new subs. Again, about 15 to 20% of the views are from people that aren't subs, so hit that sub button if that's you, if you're watching and enjoy the content, and leave your comment down below on the team and the game, or on the team overall and on this game down below. Great series win. A series I was very nervous about, and I kind of didn't downplay it, but I kind of went into it thinking this might be a rough one. Padres are a great team at home. They're a good team overall. You're going to have Logan Evans, Emerson Hancock going. At the time, I thought maybe it was going to be Jonathan Diaz on Sunday. So I was a little bit worried that this was going to be a tough one, and the team didn't come into the series exactly playing their best baseball. They had the sweep at home to the Jays. I said I wouldn't talk about that series again. I apologize. And they lost the series to the Yankees. But it's just funny how this can turn it, right? Now you look at it and you go, they were a few outs away from winning that series against the Yankees. Now they've gone on the road and beaten the Padres to, back to back to start off this series. And all of a sudden it's just kind of like, well, maybe they're not playing that bad of baseball really overall right now. The offense does just enough tonight. They get the long ball, and they get a clutch base hit in the ninth inning to really open it up. The pitching is starting to lock in a little bit. It's contagious, right? When guys start rolling out good starts. It started with Brian Wu on Tuesday. Castillo was good Wednesday. Logan Evans was fantastic last night. I thought Emerson Hancock threw the ball well, and the bullpen was lights out. Kind of come into shape a little bit, right? Like even the bullpen that has had some issues. I don't think it's been terrible, but it certainly hasn't been the lights out bullpens we've seen for the Mariners. I think everyone's kind of finding their role a little bit. Getting a absolutely amazing reliever like Matt Brash back helps. And it helps having the best reliever on the planet, and Andres Munoz locking down ninth innings as well. But the guys in the middle, right? Gabe Spire was fantastic. Thought Casey Legamina did what he needed to do. Vargas was really solid last night. Everyone's kind of starting to find their role, a little bit here. So, and again, against a good Padres offense, this is now back-to-back games where they've held them to one run. Only 2 runs scored in the series. And then tomorrow a little bit, I don't want to call every series gravy, right, when you're going for a sweep. But you came in here, you did what you needed to do by winning a series. Truthfully, I was actually okay if they walked out of here with 1 win and thinking maybe you could go take 2 or 3 from Chicago and get things rolling a little bit. So, they've already done more than, not more than what I hoped for, but more than what I was kind of okay with for the series. But instead of like in Texas, when you went for the sweep and you had Logan Evans against Jacob deGrom or something like that, you've got Brian Wu on the bump. So you have a pretty good chance. Now, Michael King's fantastic as well, so it won't be easy. But you've got a pretty good chance here now to get this series sweep. You feel pretty good about it. There's nobody I'd rather have on the mound for the Mariners right now than Brian Wu with the ball to sweep a series here. And to win a game with, Emerson Hancock against Nick Pivetta is also just a huge plus for this team. And I thought Pivetta threw the ball really well. One of my sayings of the last couple of years is sometimes I tip my cap, but then you get to a point where you're out of caps to tip, right? I can't do it anymore. I can't keep tipping the cap. That's not where I'm at this season. The Mariners offense has still been good. It's cooled off, but they're still top 10 in runs scored. And I still like looking at overall numbers with teams and players. I know people are like, oh, in their last 20 games, they're this, and this. And we shouldn't ignore that stuff because it can be trends that are leading in a certain direction. But overall numbers still matter, right? Because you're going to have hot and cold streaks. Of course, the offense, that was 120 WRC plus and was having, scoring 12 runs a game and averaging a 230 WRC plus over a week there wasn't going to continue. They weren't going to be that amazing, but they're also not 45 WRC plus bad when that happens. And they're not, 1 run a game bad when that happens. So the overall picture still paints a pretty good offense. Pivetta was on his game today. Not shocking. He was roughed up his last time out. A pitcher that good, those quality pitchers usually bounce back. It's rare when you get them twice in a row. And the Mariners were able to find a way to get one off of him thanks to Rowdy Tellez, right? And then they did some damage against a pretty good, actually more than a pretty good, outstanding Padres bullpen. Cal gets the home run over Morhan. I always come close to saying moron when I say his name. I don't mean that. He's a tremendous pitcher. I don't mean that obviously insulting, but I have to like catch myself when I say that name. And then they had a couple in the 9th inning. I thought it was a little bit odd pitching decisions there by the Padres, but not for us to worry about. I thought Dan managed the game really, really well. I thought that was maybe Dan's best managed game of the season. I thought he took Emerson Hancock out at the right spot. First of all, I thought leaving in Hancock in that 5th inning to face Machado was correct. Hancock's been getting a lot of ground balls. Machado's a good hitter, but he's also a double play candidate, doesn't run very well anymore. So it made sense to leave him in there, see if you can get that ground ball. He instead strikes him out, which was great. And then you go to Gabe Spire against Jackson Merrill. Maybe a little bit early for Spire, but not in that situation with the bases loaded. If Merrill gets a hit there, you can't, let's say you leave Hancock in, or you go to Bizzardo or, someone a little lower, Legumina, I don't know, someone a little bit more lower leverage, maybe Troy Taylor in that spot. Legumina is probably not a good example. Taylor would be a better example. And Merrill gets a double in the gap. Well, then you're never going to get a chance to use Spire, Munoz, Brash, and those guys because now you're down 4-1. That was the right call. Then Spire gets through the 6th inning. Again, the right call with the lefties that were due up that inning. Brash in the 7th. I think you could have gone Legumina 7th, Brash 8. We're splitting hairs at that point. And I also like that with Legumina in the 8th. Now, you could have gone Munoz in the 8th, I think, with the middle of the order. And I would have been fine with it. But Dan went Legumina, but Munoz was warming up. And I think that was another good call there. Not to just let Legumina hang dry and pitch that 8th inning. Gavin Sheets, who had a home run earlier, has got good pop. Going to Munoz in that spot was perfect. Yes, you run a risk with the 4-out save and things. I know sometimes pitchers don't like it. But to do it occasionally throughout the year is absolutely fine. I was hoping the Mariners could add on a couple more runs there in the 9th, and you could almost take Munoz out. And of course, as always, I talk about me and Mariner Sir were talking during the game, and we were kind of Munoz is down tomorrow, but he made a good point. Like, he threw 21 pitches. He hadn't pitched since Tuesday. He could be good to go tomorrow still. So you might still have Munoz tomorrow. Maybe Brash could go a back-to-back tomorrow. He only threw 10 pitches. I don't think it's completely out of the question. So I think the bullpen's in pretty good shape for tomorrow's game as well. Not, maybe not as good as it was coming into tonight, but you got the W tonight. So even if for some reason, let's say Wu goes 6 and you have to go, Vargas, who's fine, but maybe you got to use Bizzardo or Taylor. It's okay because you got that series win in your back pocket. Let's dive into the box score. It'd help if I had it up. Emerson Hancock, 4 2/3, 6 hits, 1 run, 1 earned, 1 walk, 3 Ks. Emerson Hancock's throwing the ball really well, in my opinion. Shame he couldn't go 5, but, Dan had a rested bullpen. He made the right call there, got the W from it. That was the right call. But Hancock certainly pitched well enough. In other circumstances, maybe try to let him get out of that 5th. If it's a game that doesn't matter or, the bullpen's a little thin, maybe you try to do it there. But in that situation, I thought it was the right call, obviously, to go to Spire. A couple of the hits that fell in on Hancock were ground balls that found holes. Bogarts, I think, I don't know if it's Bogarts or Diaz, had like a little broken bat flare that dropped in. And even the pitch that Sheets hit out, I have to go back and say, I don't think it was a terrible pitch, though, that Sheets hit out against Hancock. Had, I think, 8 swing and misses tonight, 3 strikeouts, touched 98 at one point. I've been legitimately impressed with Emerson Hancock to the point where, you have an open rotation spot right now. So when George Kirby gets back in there, Kirby is with the team. So sounds like he will make that debut in Houston. You have an open rotation spot, obviously. And then Diaz might get a start in Chicago. You can send Diaz down and go with George Kirby there. So Hancock will stay in there. And with how good Hancock's been, even Logan Evans to an extent as well, you can take your time with Bryce Miller a little bit. Logan Gilbert, you want back in there. Obviously, you always want to be careful no matter what, but Logan Gilbert, you need back in there. But with Bryce Miller, you can be a little bit careful. Give him some rehab starts here. Because truthfully, right now, Hancock's been the better pitcher between the two of them. And like I said, the velocity is up. The stuff just looks better. The ERA is misleading at 6.21. A lot of it is still that first game against Detroit. Even the Yankees game last week or Monday, whatever it was, he wasn't good, but I don't think he was 5 innings, 7 earned runs bad in that start. I actually thought he had a pretty good approach against that lineup. It just kind of all fell apart there for him in that 5th inning. It happens, but he did a nice job. It didn't happen today. Got some strikeouts when he needed them. Really been impressed with Hancock. If this was like a season that didn't matter for the Mariners and they were rebuilding, I would 100% want to see 32, 33 starts from Emerson Hancock. He's intrigued me enough right now where I do want to see him. Now, the Mariners, I hope, are going to continue to be in this race. And Logan Gilbert, George Kirby are better right now than, Logan Evans and Emerson Hancock. So I'll make that switch if that's what needs to be done for this rotation. But, no, because right now you have an open spot. So I think Evans would go down before Hancock, but I'm getting ahead of myself there. But I wouldn't mind seeing Hancock make 32, 33 starts just to kind of see. I'm curious. I'm curious to see what it would be because I've been impressed since he's come back. Gabe Spire, inning in the 3rd, gives up a hit, 2 strikeouts. The hit was Bogarts to start the 6th. Was kind of expecting the game to go in a rain delay there. And I thought it was affecting Spire a little bit because his velo looked like it dipped down in that 6th inning, but managed to get through it and no rain delay was necessary. Matt Brash was fantastic in his inning. No walks, a strikeout. The changeup was unleashed today against Jason Hayward. I thought that pitch was fantastic. Velo's a little bit down still, but I think he's throwing more 2-seamers than 4-seamers. I don't know. Someone can let me know in the comments down below. I'm sure I could look it up and see what it's classified as. I haven't. But Brash looks absolutely fantastic. And he's really finding the strike zone too. His first couple starts, I thought he wasn't quite in the zone as much. Appearances, but he has been really dialed in his last few times out. Legumino was perfect in his 2/3. Well, I mean, not perfect, but did a perfect job in what he needed to do. 2/3 of an inning, gave up a hit, also had a strikeout. He struck out. Who did he strike out here? Let me see. Let me pull up the bottom of the 8th because I remember being impressed with the strikeout. Let's see. Bottom of the 8th. That's top of the 9th. Machado grounded out. Jackson Merrill, that's an impressive strikeout. And then Bogart singled. And I thought Dan made the right call there, going to Munoz in a 1-run game. Munoz goes an inning and a third, no hits, no runs, no walks, and a strikeout for his 14th save of the season. Spire technically gets the W tonight. Great job by the pitching staff. And that's a good Padres lineup, like I talked about last night, how impressive Logan Evans was. I think Evans was a little more impressive yesterday than Hancock was today, but Hancock was really solid. And the bullpen, I talked about it yesterday, right? Like, be quick on the have a quick leash for Hancock because you've got all your leverage arms ready to go. And they answered the call, right? And they were fantastic today. Let's get into the lineup. 6 hits for the Mariners, 4 runs, 3 walks, did strike out 11 times. Again, kudos is deserved. Nick Pivetta threw the ball really well. This is a good Padres rotation. These are not the teams you're going to beat 13-1. Padres and Yankees do not lose games 13-1. And the Mariners too, to be honest, this year, right? Like they haven't had a ton of, they've had their 8-1s, it happens. Every team gets beat up a couple times, but you weren't going to go into San Diego and get wins like that. You're going to do what you've done the last 2 nights. Hopefully run into a few and then maybe find a clutch base hit with the bases loaded like they did tonight. They've put up 9 runs. 2 games. Doesn't really matter where you get them in the game as long as you get them. So, again, the offense has cooled off a little bit. Polanco isn't quite driving the ball. JP has kind of oddly walked less since going into leadoff spot. And Julio has been fine, hasn't quite found the slugging I think that we're looking for. But again, this is still the best April May we've seen from Julio. Cal remains red hot. Rowdy is on a hot streak, right? Which is great because when you need someone to bridge the bottom of the order. I talked about that. I don't remember which recap, but I talked about really missing Luke Raley because he was kind of that bridge guy that got you from the big guns up top to maybe some of the lesser bats at the bottom that have cooled off. There was a while there that bottom in the order was on base machines. That has cooled off significantly, and that's okay. It's okay, but you've got to have someone that can kind of bridge the gap, and Rowdy has really been doing that. I don't really get why Leo Rivas isn't getting any playing time over Mastroboni. I understand that Rivas, I said it yesterday, of course he's not going to have a 400, 450 on base percentage, but he's had quality at bats. Mastroboni isn't doing anything for you offensively right now. I know the StatCast pages were very favorable to Mastroboni. I haven't checked them in a week or so not quite sure where they are now. I'm not against Mastroboni being on this roster. He seems like a good defensive player, good speed. I don't think his at-bats have been dreadful, although they're starting to even, for a while there, he was walking, being patient. Now they've started to drop off a little bit. And Rivas was doing his thing, getting on base. I don't really get why he's just completely fallen off the face of the earth. I don't think anybody should be losing sleep over Leo Rivas not playing a ton. But, if you got a hot hand, ride it. And if he cools off, he cools off. It was kind of like Victor Robles last year. It was like, Scott, just play him. He's hot. See what he can do. And then sure enough, you did, and he kept it going. Maybe Leo Rivas plays and he's terrible, but you give it a shot, right? It's not like, oh my gosh, no, Miles Mastroboni didn't get 4 at-bats today in those situations. So, and Ben Williamson's cooled off pretty significantly too. Again, I think with Williamson, though, I'm willing to put him out there every day. He's your best bet at third base at the moment. Maybe if you get Luke Raley back, Dylan Moore could make some sense over there. Raley could play for, you could work around it a little bit more. But right now, unless you're pulling off a trade, Williamson, I think, is your best bet because you're getting a solid defensive player, very, savvy, I think, defensive player. You'd like to see him do a little bit more at the bat, but he doesn't have to necessarily right now. But, and we'll see. We'll see as we get closer to trades season what they end up, thinking and wanting to do there for certain positions. All right, so JP was 0 for 4. Polanco 0 for 4 as well, so didn't get anything from the top two. Julio was 1 for 4, had a kind of a bloop single in the right field in the first inning. Actually ended up being pretty big because you were able to get Pivetta to throw 24, 25 pitches in that first inning, which, maybe proved valuable later on as he couldn't go 7 innings. So that was a nice at-bat there for Julio and made a couple nice catches in center field as well. Cal Raleigh just doing Cal Raleigh things. 1 for 2, solo home run, his 15th, scores 2 runs and walks twice, 3 times on base, 2 walks, home run. I mean, again, I'll throw it back out there because he's hot again. Dumper for MVP. Yes, I'm aware of Aaron Judge, very much aware. I'm sure it is Aaron Judge right now, but someone's got to take the stand for our man, the big dumper. And I'll be the crazy homer when the team's winning for you guys and girls. So dumper for MVP. Randy 2 for 4. Solid base hit there, I think, in the 7th. And then a little dribbler that, hey, stayed fair down the line. That thing was probably hit with an exit velo of 1. Actually, I'm curious what it was. Where is it here, Randy? Where was that hit? It doesn't even have an exit velo because it was hit so weakly. They couldn't even give it an exit velocity. It couldn't even be measured and had an expected batting average because it was hit so weakly. It was like a bunt, essentially. But Randy gets on base there and helped lead to 2 runs. So Randy with a couple hits. Would like to see, kind of talk about with Julio, like to see a little bit of a slugging output here from Randy, but he continues to get on base and be productive. I'm not going to complain about Julio and Randy right now because they have been absolutely fine, in my opinion. Rowdy Tellez, 1 for 2 with a solo homer. Man, when he's hot, like he's just one of those guys that can't not hit a home run. He's going to have cold spells too. He's very streaky. But that was one of the positives, right? Like if you can get a couple week heater from Rowdy Tellez, he can really help your offense. And you've seen that. I saw in that Toronto series how pivotal he was, helped them win it. And he's done it here against the Padres. Got that run right back for them. Love that Tellez just kind of plays half baseball games and gets to go into the dugout, enjoy it, and watch the team get W's. Solano pinched hit for Rowdy Tellez. Listen, all joking aside from the start of the video, and that was a really nice walk by Solano, right? And it helped set up that inning. So kudos to him, right? That was a huge at-bat, and he helped them score a couple runs. Just let Rowdy Tellez have the at-bats against lefties. I shouldn't pick on Solano again today. He had 2 at-bats, and he reached base in half of them. That's a 500 OBP today. Kudos. But he still missed some cookie pitches. He just looks done, right? Like, great work the walk. That doesn't save anything. I'm not going to pick on him too much here, but I'd rather just watch Rowdy Tellez have the at-bats against the lefty. If you want Dylan Moore to pinch hit for Rowdy, fine. If you want, well, I mean, if, Julio's got a day off or Randy's got a day off, then fine. But, even Garver, you know what? No, not even right now. I mean, he's walking. Maybe because he's at least getting on base a little bit, but I'd rather watch Tellez, and Tellez seems to be a better defensive player. So I don't know. I'm not going to dwell on those things and wins too much, but yeah, nice walk for Solano, who was 0 for 1 with that walk. Helped set up a couple crucial runs, driven in by Dylan Moore, who was 1 for 4, 2 RBIs. He got punched out on a pitch I thought was way outside. Another rough game, I thought, for the but I thought it was pretty evenly distributed for the awfulness. Master Boney 0 for 3. I mean, his OPS is down to 502. I mean, again, I don't have a problem with him being on the roster right now. There is some value, and it's not like Leody Taveras is crushing the baseball. And while I'd rather see Leo Rivas, it's not like you're not leaving Prime Robinson Cano on the bench for him or anything like that. But outside of, let Rivas play tomorrow. Just do it, Dan. Leody Taveras pinched hit was 0 for 1. Did hit it hard, though, 103 off the bat, 450 expected batting average on that line drive from Leody. So good to see there. And then Ben Williamson 0 for 4 as well. Cal coming through, obviously the hero today. Dylan Moore with the clutch short single, and Rowdy getting it done. And I will shout out that walk for Solano. That was a key one that helped extend that inning. Get that sweep tomorrow. I always talk about it where it's like, hey, you won the series. Tomorrow's gravy. And it is. I'm not going to be in tears if they lose. I'm normally not in tears unless they lost some just devastating playoff game. But, you won the series. That is huge. So tomorrow certainly is going to be a little less nervous for me to watch. But go get the dang sweep, right? Finish this off. Go into San Diego and sweep a huge series. Get you to 26-19. Then you go to Chicago and a chance to maybe get 8-9 games over 500. No series is a guarantee, but you got to feel pretty good. You can go in Chicago and win a couple. Then you got a big series with Houston where, if you can win tomorrow, win 2 out of 3 in Chicago, you're sitting there at 28-20. If you split in Houston, that's absolutely fine. That is completely fine. So go get that series sweep tomorrow, and you got to feel good with Brian Wu on the bump. Like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all tomorrow evening. Oh, channel members, I do apologize. I was going to try and do a stream tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to. My house is dealing with a bug that is going around, not a literal bug, but a sick bug. The missus tried and still under the weather. I'm actually not 100%. I'm fine. I could do it. And then the kiddos are off and on. If you guys listen to this, I feel like this is Jay's parenting diary now, but you guys, if you have kids, you know how it is. They just cycle through sicknesses, it seems. So one gets better, the next one's down, and I've got 3 of them. So, that always seems to be going around at some point. So I do apologize, channel members. I'll have some videos up for you though next week, and I will try and do a live stream, either doing the Chicago or Houston series. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, go Mariners. Peace.